Have you ever noticed something strange? You spend an hour with certain people, and when you leave, you feel exhausted. Not physically, mentally. It's as if someone quietly removed all the peace you had before the conversation began. Curiously, they may have done nothing obviously wrong. They didn't insult you. They didn't argue with you. They didn't even raise their voice. Yet somehow, you return home carrying a weight that wasn't there before. Many people call this negative energy. The Stoics would have described it differently. They believe that no one can truly disturb your inner peace unless they first receive your permission. That idea sounds almost impossible. After all, how can someone else's anger, constant complaining, or endless criticism not affect you? Marcus Aurelius spent much of his life surrounded by conflict. He dealt with betrayal, political rivals, wars, disease, people who lied to him, people who wanted power more than truth. Yet, in his private journal, he repeatedly reminded himself of one lesson. The greatest danger was never the people around him. It was allowing those people to take up residence inside his own mind. Most of us don't realize when that begins to happen. A conversation ends, but inside our head, it continues for hours, sometimes for days. We replay what they said. We imagine better responses. We defend ourselves in arguments that no longer exist. The other person has already moved on, but we continue carrying them. Not in our hands, in our thoughts. Perhaps that is why you feel so drained. Not because people are stealing your energy, but because your mind has been carrying burdens it was never meant to keep. Tonight, we're going to explore why some people leave you emotionally exhausted, what the Stoics understood about protecting your inner peace, and how you can stop carrying conversations long after they've ended. Most people believe exhaustion comes from doing too much work, too many responsibilities, too little sleep. Sometimes that's true. But there is another kind of exhaustion that cannot be solved by resting. It follows you even after a full night's sleep. It appears after family dinners, office meetings, phone calls, or brief conversations that seem perfectly ordinary. You walk away wondering, why do I suddenly feel so heavy? The answer is rarely found in what happened. It is found in what continued happening inside your mind after it was over. Imagine carrying a backpack. At first, someone places a single stone inside. You barely notice. Then another. And another. None of them feels especially heavy on its own. Yet by the end of the day, your shoulders ache. Your back hurts. You wonder why walking has become so difficult. Many relationships work the same way. Every criticism you replay, every careless remark you analyze, every attempt to prove yourself to someone who has already made up their mind, becomes another stone. The remarkable thing is this: most of those stones were never placed there by the other person. You pick them up yourself. Epictetus taught that events themselves do not disturb us. Our judgments about those events do. At first glance, that idea can feel unfair. Someone speaks harshly. Someone ignores you. Someone constantly complains. Surely they are the reason you feel drained. The Stoics didn't deny that painful people exist. They simply asked a deeper question. After the conversation ended, who continued carrying it? Think about the last time someone criticized you. The words may have lasted 30 seconds, but perhaps your mind replayed them for 3 hours. Or 3 days. The criticism ended. Your suffering didn't. That difference matters. Because if your exhaustion comes only from other people, you have very little control over your peace. But if part of that exhaustion comes from what your own mind continues to carry, then freedom becomes possible. Marcus Aurelius once wrote each morning that he expected to meet difficult people. Not because he was pessimistic. Because he understood human nature. Some people would be selfish, some impatient, some dishonest, some consumed by their own fears. Expecting perfection from others only guaranteed disappointment. Instead, he prepared his own mind before meeting them. Notice the order. He didn't begin by trying to change difficult people. He began by strengthening himself. That may be the first lesson we've forgotten. We spend enormous energy asking, "How can I make them different?" Very little energy asking, "Why am I still carrying them after they've already left?" The answer to that question may change the way you protect your peace forever. Have you ever walked into a room where everyone seemed anxious? Before anyone even said a word, no one needed to explain what was happening. You simply felt it. A tense silence, restless faces, an invisible pressure filling the space. Human beings are remarkably sensitive to the emotional states of others. Long before we learned to speak, our survival depended on reading expressions, voices, and subtle changes in behavior. In many ways, this ability protected us. It helped families stay together, communities survive. Children recognized danger before they understood language. But every strength carries a hidden cost. The same mind that allows us to understand another person's emotions can also begin to absorb them. Without realizing it, you slowly confuse someone else's emotional storm with your own. A coworker spends the morning complaining. By lunchtime, your mood has changed. A friend constantly expects the worst. Soon you begin anticipating disappointment too. A family member lives in constant anger. Little by little, your own patience starts disappearing. Nothing dramatic happened. No single moment changed you. Yet something inside quietly shifted. The Stoics observed this long before the modern world spoke about emotional influence. They understood that while compassion is a virtue, emotional surrender is not. There is an important difference between understanding another person's pain and making it your permanent home. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire filled with fear, ambition, and conflict. If he had absorbed every emotion around him, he would never have been able to lead. Instead, he practiced something far more difficult. He listened without becoming consumed. He cared, without carrying every burden. Imagine standing beside a river after heavy rain. The current is powerful. The water is muddy. Branches and debris rush past. Would you jump into the river simply because it is moving? Or would you remain safely on the shore, watching it pass? Other people's emotions often resemble that river. They move. They rise. They fall. But not every current deserves to carry you away. Many of us have confused empathy with responsibility. We secretly believe that if someone we love is anxious, we should become anxious too. If they are angry, perhaps we should share their anger. If they cannot find peace, neither should we. But suffering alongside another person does not always help them. Sometimes, it simply creates two people who are drowning instead of one. Epictetus reminded his students that another person's choices belong to them. Your choices belong to you. That boundary may sound simple. Living it requires extraordinary discipline. Because there will always be people who invite you into emotional battles that never needed to become yours. Arguments, gossip, resentment, constant outrage, endless drama. Some people carry these everywhere they go. Not because they enjoy suffering, because suffering has become familiar, and familiarity often feels safer than change. The question is not whether those people exist. They always will. The question is whether you quietly accept the invitation every time they arrive. Every conversation presents a choice. Will you observe? Or will you absorb? That single decision shapes far more of your inner peace than you may realize. Perhaps protecting your energy isn't about avoiding difficult people. Perhaps it's about remembering where their emotions end and where yours begin. Have you ever noticed that the most exhausting conversations are often the ones that ended hours ago? The other person has already gone home. They've moved on with their day. Perhaps they've already forgotten what they said. Yet somehow, the conversation is still happening. Not in the room, inside your mind. You replay every sentence, Every expression, every pause. You imagine what you should have said. You rewrite the ending. You defend yourself in arguments that no longer exist. The strange part is this. None of it changes reality. But it changes you. Little by little. Your peace is replaced by endless mental noise. This is one of the mind's oldest habits. It believes that if it keeps analyzing the past, it will eventually discover a perfect answer, a perfect response, a perfect explanation. But life rarely offers perfect endings. Sometimes people misunderstand you. Sometimes they judge you unfairly. Sometimes they walk away believing a story that isn't true. And no amount of replaying can rewrite what has already happened. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He often reminded himself that the present moment is the only place where reason can act. The past belongs to memory. The future belongs to uncertainty. Only this moment belongs to you. Yet how much of our lives is spent everywhere except here? We sit with our families, while replaying yesterday's argument. We walk through beautiful mornings, while mentally preparing for tomorrow's confrontation. Our bodies remain in the present, but our minds live somewhere else. No wonder we feel exhausted. Imagine trying to carry 2 heavy suitcases every hour of every day. Eventually, your arms would give out. Now imagine one suitcase is yesterday. The other is tomorrow. Most people never put either one down. The Stoics asked a simple but uncomfortable question. Why are you carrying what time has already taken away? That question changes everything. Because every minute spent arguing with the past is a minute stolen from the only life you can actually live. Think about someone who insulted you 5 years ago. Perhaps you still remember their words. Perhaps they still hurt. But ask yourself honestly, who has been repeating those words more often? Them or you? This is not about blaming yourself. It is about discovering where your freedom still exists. The person who hurt you may have spoken for only a few seconds, but every replay inside your mind gives those same words new life. Again, and again, and again. Eventually, you begin living with an invisible roommate. Someone who isn't even there anymore. The Stoics believe that wisdom begins the moment you stop arguing with reality. Reality says, the conversation is over. Your mind says, just one more replay. Reality says, they've already left. Your mind says, maybe if I think about it long enough, I'll finally feel at peace. But peace never arrives through endless repetition. It arrives the moment you stop asking the past to become different. Perhaps this is why certain people seem impossible to forget. Not because they continue hurting you, but because your mind continues inviting them back. Every single day. The greatest act of self-protection isn't winning every argument. It's refusing to build a permanent home for temporary conversations. Because every conversation you keep replaying occupies a room inside your mind. And every room occupied by yesterday is a room unavailable for today. There is a quiet mistake many of us make without ever noticing. We believe that being a good person means carrying everyone else's emotional weight. We listen. We comfort. We try to understand. Slowly, without realizing it, we begin carrying burdens that were never ours to begin with. At first, it feels like kindness. But over time, kindness without boundaries turns into exhaustion. Imagine walking through a crowded airport. People rush past carrying suitcases of every shape and size. Now imagine stopping each traveler and insisting on carrying their luggage for them. For the first few minutes, you might feel generous. By the end of the day, you would collapse beneath a mountain of bags that don't belong to you. Yet emotionally, many of us live exactly this way. A friend's resentment becomes your resentment. A coworker's frustration follows you home. A family member's constant worry settles into your own thoughts. Without noticing, your inner world becomes crowded with lives you cannot control. The Stoics never argued that you should become cold or indifferent. Quite the opposite. They believed compassion is strongest when it is guided by reason. Because if another person's suffering completely destroys your own peace, you lose the very stability that might have helped them. Think of a lighthouse during a storm. Its purpose is not to join the waves. Its purpose is to remain standing. If the lighthouse throws itself into the sea, there is nothing left to guide anyone home. Perhaps this is why Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to one simple practice. Whenever his mind became tangled in the actions of others, he quietly asked himself, "Is this within my control?" If the answer was no, he refused to surrender his peace to it. Not because he didn't care. Because he understood that caring and controlling are not the same thing. Someone may choose anger. You cannot choose for them. Someone may live in bitterness. You cannot heal them by becoming bitter yourself. Someone may spend years criticizing everyone around them. You cannot silence that voice by carrying it inside your own head. There comes a moment when wisdom asks a difficult question. Whose life am I living right now? If your thoughts revolve entirely around someone else's choices, someone else's opinions, someone else's emotional storms, then little space remains for your own life. This is how people slowly disappear without ever leaving. Not physically, internally. Their days become occupied by conversations they cannot change, relationships they cannot fix, people they cannot rescue. The Stoics warned against this kind of invisible slavery. Not slavery to another person, but slavery to endless emotional dependence. Freedom begins with recognizing a simple truth. You can stand beside someone without standing inside their suffering. You can love someone without becoming responsible for every emotion they experience. You can offer support without sacrificing your own peace. That is not selfishness. It is clarity. And clarity protects both you and the people you care about. The next time you leave a conversation feeling unusually heavy, pause before blaming the other person. Ask yourself one question. What did I carry away that was never mine? Sometimes the answer is an expectation. Sometimes it is guilt. Sometimes it is another person's fear. Sometimes it is nothing more than the habit of believing you must solve every problem you witness. The moment you recognize what isn't yours, you gain the ability to put it down. And perhaps that is what real emotional strength looks like. Not building thicker walls, but refusing to carry someone else's luggage for the rest of your life. There is a common misunderstanding about boundaries. Many people imagine them as walls. Cold, rigid, designed to keep everyone out. The Stoics saw them differently. A healthy boundary is not a wall. It is a door. A wall rejects everyone. A door allows you to choose what enters. That choice changes everything. Most emotional exhaustion doesn't begin when someone speaks. It begins when we stop choosing what deserves a place in our minds. Someone offers an opinion. We accept it as truth. Someone projects their fears. We quietly adopt them. Someone questions our worth. We begin questioning ourselves. Little by little, our inner world is no longer our own. It becomes a collection of other people's voices. Marcus Aurelius understood that every day would bring opinions, praise, criticism, advice, complaints, rumors, expectations. He could not stop them from arriving, but he never believed he was required to welcome every one of them. Imagine sitting beside a fireplace on a winter evening. Every few minutes, someone walks in and tosses another log into the flames. Some logs burn cleanly. They give warmth. Others are damp. They fill the room with smoke. Your mind works much the same way. Every idea you accept becomes fuel. Some thoughts strengthen your character. Others cloud your judgment until you can no longer see clearly. The Stoic boundary begins with a simple question. Does this deserve my attention? Notice that the question is not, is this true? Nor is it, did they mean to hurt me? The first question is far more practical. Does this deserve a home inside my mind? Most of us rarely ask it. We grant free admission to every criticism, every headline, every argument online. Every careless remark from someone who barely knows us. Then we wonder why our thoughts feel crowded. Imagine owning a beautiful garden. You would not allow every stranger to plant whatever they wished. Some would scatter flowers. Others would throw weeds. If you never chose what remained, eventually the weeds would take over. Your mind deserves the same care. Not every opinion deserves to grow there. Not every emotion deserves to stay there. Not every conversation deserves another hour of your life. This is not denial. It is discernment. Epictetus often encouraged his students to examine their impressions before accepting them. Between what happens and what you believe about what happens, there is a small space. Most people rush through it. The Stoic learns to live inside it. Someone criticizes you. Before reacting, pause. Someone speaks with anger. Before absorbing it, pause. Someone tries to hand you their fear. Before carrying it, pause. That pause is not weakness. It is freedom. Because within that brief moment, you remember something most people forget. You always have a choice. Not over another person's behavior, but over what you allow to remain within yourself. Over time, these small choices quietly reshape your life. You stop chasing every misunderstanding. You stop defending yourself against every accusation. You stop explaining your heart to people committed to misunderstanding it. Not because you no longer care, but because you finally understand the difference between protecting your peace and protecting your ego. One requires constant fighting. The other requires quiet wisdom. A Stoic boundary is not built with anger. It is built with clarity. It does not say, "You are not allowed to exist." It simply says, "You are not allowed to rule my inner world." And perhaps that is the strongest boundary any human being can ever create. There comes a moment in every life when you realize that waiting for other people to change is its own kind of prison. You wait for the apology that never comes. You wait for someone to finally understand your intentions. You wait for difficult people to become easier. You wait for life to become quieter. And while you wait, your peace remains on hold. The Stoics believed this was one of the greatest mistakes a person could make. Because the quality of your inner life should never depend entirely on circumstances you cannot control. Think about the weather. Some mornings are bright and calm. Others arrive with wind and rain. No one stands outside arguing with the sky. No one demands that the storm disappear simply because it is inconvenient. Instead, we adapt. We carry an umbrella. We postpone the picnic. We accept what the day has given us. Yet when it comes to people, we often do the opposite. We expect everyone to behave according to our hopes, to speak the right words, to understand us completely, to never disappoint us. And when they fail, our peace collapses with our expectations. Marcus Aurelius understood that every sunrise brought uncertainty. He would encounter kindness and cruelty, wisdom and ignorance, patience and anger. He did not waste his strength trying to control which version of humanity would appear that day. He focused on the only question that truly mattered. Who will I choose to be when it does? That question quietly shifts the center of your life. Instead of asking, "Why are they like this?" you begin asking, "How will I respond?" Instead of wondering, "How do I stop them from disturbing me?" you ask, "Why have I handed them the keys to my peace?" There is a profound difference. One question makes you a prisoner. The other reminds you that you still have a choice. Many people spend years protecting their reputation. Far fewer spend time protecting their attention. Yet attention is where life actually happens. Whatever repeatedly captures your attention slowly shapes your character. If your attention belongs to outrage, your days will become restless. If it belongs to resentment, your heart will become heavy. If it belongs to endless conflict, peace will always feel just beyond reach. This is why the Stoics treated attention as something sacred. Not because they wanted to ignore reality, but because they understood that attention is the doorway through which every experience enters your life. Guard that doorway carefully. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every disagreement deserves your energy. Not every invitation to conflict deserves your acceptance. Some battles are won the moment you decide not to enter them. Perhaps this sounds too simple. But consider your own life. How many hours have disappeared because one careless comment refused to leave your mind? How many beautiful mornings have been overshadowed by a conversation that ended yesterday? How many peaceful evenings have been surrendered to arguments that existed only in your imagination? Your life is measured in moments. Every unnecessary burden you continue carrying quietly steals one of them. There is no greater act of self-respect than deciding your inner peace is no longer available for constant negotiation. Not because you have become indifferent, but because you have finally understood its value. The world will always contain noise. People will misunderstand you. Some will criticize you. Others will disappoint you. None of that is new. The question has never been whether the world will test your peace. The question is whether you will continue placing your peace into hands that were never meant to hold it. Perhaps the strongest person in the room is not the loudest, nor the one who always has the perfect response. Perhaps it is the person who quietly walks away, still carrying their own peace, and nothing more. Imagine waking up tomorrow and meeting the very same people, the same coworker who complains, the same relative who criticizes, the same stranger who speaks without thinking. Nothing around you has changed. Yet something feels different. Not because the world became kinder, but because you stopped asking it to become something it was never meant to be. Peace does not begin when difficult people disappear. It begins when they no longer occupy your inner world. That is the quiet freedom the Stoics try to cultivate. Not a life without conflict, but a mind that refuses to be ruled by it. Marcus Aurelius could not choose the people who surrounded him. He could not choose every crisis that entered his life. But each day, he returned to the same practice. He examined his own thoughts before he judged the world. Because he understood something many of us spend years forgetting. The greatest battle is rarely with another person. It is with the habit of surrendering our peace to things beyond our control. Perhaps there is someone you've been carrying for far too long. Someone whose words still echo in your mind. Someone whose approval you continue chasing. Someone whose anger still follows you into quiet moments. Maybe today, you don't need another argument. You don't need the perfect explanation. You don't even need them to understand you. Maybe what you need is to gently set down a burden that was never yours to carry. Not because they deserve forgiveness. Not because what happened was fair. But because your peace deserves a chance to breathe again. The Stoics never promised that life would become easier. They promised something far more valuable. That no matter what kind of world you wake up to, you can learn to become someone who is not easily shaken by it. And perhaps that is what real strength has always been. Not controlling every person you meet. Not winning every disagreement. Not proving your worth over and over again. But protecting the quiet place within yourself, where no opinion, no criticism, and no passing storm has the authority to decide who you are. Before you leave, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is one relationship or situation you've been carrying in your mind for far longer than you should have? Share it in the comments. Your story may encourage someone else who is silently carrying the same burden. If this reflection brought you clarity, please take a moment to like the video. It helps this message reach more people who may need it today. If you know someone who always feels emotionally exhausted after being around certain people, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear. And if you're on a journey of building a calmer, stronger, and more resilient mind through Stoic wisdom, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss future reflections. Until next time. Protect your attention. Guard your peace. And remember, the strongest mind is not the one that carries the most. It is the one that knows what to let go.